Another edition of Riding Home. Dean Legge,
Right. Oh,
Falcon Ryan
hey.
with us. We're good. Oh my God, what's happening? It's draft night, draft day. Ryan, in all seriousness, 5 Georgia Bulldogs, first time ever that 5 players from one defense have gone in the first round of a draft. No Nakobe Dean, but beyond that, I mean, my expectation is, I don't see Nakobe not going in the first 50, which gives us a good, say, 18 draft picks to go. This defense, they were really good. They're not going to be bad in this next year. Let's talk about those guys that got drafted. And well, I mean, what it looks like. Let's talk about what it looks like.
Oh, this is great for recruiting. It's
Yeah,
great for recruiting. I mean, these are all guys, none of them had, of these first round guys, none of them had some crazy spectacular season, right?
correct.
Nakobe
Correct.
Dean had the best season out of all of them. And he's falling because of the concern with the pec injury a couple months ago, and
Okay.
his poor pro day. That's why he started to fall. And the linebacker position is not as valuable in the NFL as it was maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago.
So
So
there are a slew of
there's a
reasons.
few reasons. Other positions are being valued more. Receiver is being valued more. That's now overtaking defensive end almost for the second most valuable position in football from a financial standpoint. But you've got Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and some of these guys were under the radar. We're talking about Devontae Wyatt's the guy that no one really talked about at all, and he's coming in as a first round pick. Lewis Seen's pro day comes in as a first round pick. A historic defense just produced a historic draft, and Kirby Smart's got to be smiling.
Well, he was. I'll say this. I don't know. I've never heard Mary Beth talk. I don't know how that's possible. She's been around the block for a while. And she was congratulating, her and Kirby were congratulating Jordan Davis last night. And you can tell, look, it's everything for Kirby and family are pointed towards, getting success for the men that come play for them. And last night, it's hard to see. It's hard. I keep visually right now, I'm thinking about that GIF, or however you young people call it, of Kirby swinging something between his legs. Do you know what I'm talking about? Last night was a night like that because when you follow up the national championship in a double-digit win over Alabama with 5 guys in the first round, you bookend the round with number 1 and 32. Um, it's a hot night for Georgia. The Clemson 18 class that went in 19, I think had a fair amount of defense. I think they had 3 defensive linemen that went, which was
Yes,
the power of that team. Forget Trevor Lawrence for a moment. This group had 3, and then they also had a guy that for the bulk of his time at Georgia, Falcon Ryan, was a reserve linebacker, Quay Walker. He had to
yeah,
change.
that was that.
He had to change numbers at
He
Georgia.
did. He did.
He
He went from 25 to 7 that final year. That was the biggest surprise to me. I was like, oh, whoa, Quay Walker. I think it was 22 to the Packers.
Right.
He was the
Yeah.
first linebacker off the board. He went over
Is that
the
right?
Utah. Yeah, the Utah player got selected, I think, 5 or 6 picks after him. So Quay Walker, and the consensus on Quay Walker is just not there from
Well,
all the draft experts
here we
last
go.
night.
Here we
All
go.
the draft experts last night. I heard both ends of it. I heard he's a complete bust, and I heard he's a future Hall of Famer. So I don't,
I'm not sure how we could say he's a bust, but I want to talk about Devontae just for a second. Devontae and I
okay.
grew up very near one another. Had a lot of friends that lived in the Towers area. They didn't go to Towers, but Devontae did. Um, you know, his story is one of perseverance and working in the dark. I mean, no one thought about Devontae when he got to Georgia. Certainly, no one really thought about him when he didn't have the grades to get to where he needed to go from Towers. Then he goes out to Hutchinson and Kansas, and I have been out there, and it is remote, and there's not much there. And then he came back this past year, And bro, he was not going to get drafted. It didn't look like last year, like a fifth, sixth, seventh round, which means you might not get drafted, right? I mean, you're on the edge at that stage. For Devontae Wright to come back and get the type of money that he got. I mean, Devontae can do now with his life almost whatever he wants to do. And it is not exclusively because of his athleticism and his gifts. I saw that when he was playing in 2016 at Meadow Creek High School against the Mustangs. You could see what the guy could do. But what he did was he didn't let his circumstances drag him down. And he went on and he will get that money. And it's an amazing testament to him specifically, his development at Georgia, which means Trey Scott, secondarily, and then Kirby for getting him there, sticking with him through junior college, and the decision making was excellent, as it turns out, for all these guys that came back. I mean, and by the way, Falcon Ryan, it was excellent for Trayvon to leave. It was a smart
It
decision, and
was
they
because
really thought about that.
there was a point in time we weren't sure if he was gonna stay or leave, and he turns into the
Yeah,
number one pick. He turned into the
yeah.
number one pick. That's the most historic pre-draft rise ever. I think it's
Is that
gotta
good
be.
though?
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of people for the coming months, won't know how he'll do until he plays, but
Right.
are calling him a reach, and maybe it was a little bit of a reach because you're picking off a potential, um, but his potential's through the roof. No, it's there's not a lot of people built like some of these Georgia players. There aren't a
No,
lot of
there's
Jordan
not.
Davises and Trayvon Walkers walking
No,
around.
no.
6'5", 275, 6'6", 340, and they both run like a deer. They don't create these human beings very often, and you got to take a chance on them. Jordan Davis, it looked like he was traded up for. I know the Eagles swapped with people. I don't know if they were waiting on Jamison Williams to fall or not. I think it was between Jamison Williams and Jordan Davis for them at 13. And obviously Detroit went up there and grabbed Jamison Williams. But
Well,
this is a
two.
huge night for the program. Huge night for the program.
Let me take my pants off and shit all over the Jags and the Lions real quick.
Okay, okay.
Nobody's ever confused either of those franchises with knowing what they're doing. The Falcons, same story. So,
I'm not super pleased as a Falcons fan.
right.
So
But to say Trayvon's a reach, I think you could make that argument. I also know that we're talking about two different things here. Number one, can Trayvon Walker become an all-pro player? Can he become an elite pass rushing guy when he's only when he was playing 80% or 90% of snaps versus playing 50ish? Number two, just in terms of straight up, skill and athleticism, would you take Aiden Hutchinson over him? Personally, I would not, because I know that this is about development and potential versus what you see is what you get. I don't know what Hutchinson will do. I know that when he competed against Georgia, and this is how I am with every single person Devontae Wyatt, Jermaine Johnson. I was not super impressed when I saw Jermaine Johnson live. I drove 5 hours in Kansas to watch him play live. Yes, he is a first round guy. Clearly, that just happened, but he didn't impress me. And all I can go on is what I can go on. I'm not some sort of expert, right? When I watched Aiden Hutchinson, what was his line against Georgia? Did he have a tackle?
no, I don't think he
Did
had
he have a
anything.
sack?
No.
Did he make a play?
The most famous play is him getting his ass on the ground.
Okay, so that's one, probably 60th of his college career, but it was the last game he played, and for me, in my biased view, it was the only game I saw the guy play and do shit. So I don't want to hear about Aiden Hutchinson, going over Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker in the biggest moments came up big. Period. The quarterback pressures against Alabama. I mean, it wasn't just him. They had 40, or whatever the number was. You got to do it when it matters. Matthew Stafford, he did it when it mattered. Okay, and I think the guy. I'm not saying the guy's going to be a bust. No, the guy is very polished. But when it comes down to picking one or the other, I'm not. I'm the opposite of Lewis Riddick on this. I mean, he went hard in on this was basically a mistake without saying it. And he was saying, "Hey, defensive line coach at the Jags, it's up to you to get this guy right." Well, yeah, no shit. I mean, do you think?
It's
You
what
what do
he's
you
getting paid to do.
right? I mean, do you think that you? I mean, let's just answer this question for me, and I'll let you
Okay.
monologue for a while. You think Trevor Lawrence is pumped up? He's at the Jags and wasted his last year. I mean, that
No.
guy, you broke. Trevor, get out of there. Leave.
There's a
They're
few
gonna waste him.
franchises you don't want to go to, and that's one
They're
of
gonna
them.
waste him. They're gonna waste him. You watch.
The thing with Trayvon is, he rose because of the combine and the
Yes.
measurables. That's why he rose. But
Mhm.
when you're watching tape, yeah, his sample size is way smaller than Aiden Hutchinson's. But to me, if you're comparing them, there's nothing super special about Aiden Hutchinson. He's just a really good pass rusher, and there's a
And
lot of those to come by.
there's nothing
But
wrong with that, right?
there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's what you need, and if in your opinion he was the best pass rusher in the class, go grab him. But the thing about Trayvon Walker is, for a quote unquote edge rusher, I've just seen him do some things on the field I don't see a lot of edge rushers do. You don't see a lot of edge rushers chase down a really fast, like 4 or 5 star receiver. You don't see a lot of edge rushers drop back in coverage and put their body on the line to tip a football. You don't see a lot of edge rushers grab. Yeah, you got to go. I know what picture you're on. And that's what I was referencing. You don't see a lot of edge rushers grab people like that and make them look like little people.
I mean,
I
bingo.
mean,
I don't. I mean, I'm not saying that picking him is the wrong. I'm not saying that picking him is necessarily the right decision. This is Trayvon Walker's doing right here. Okay. I'm not saying that picking. What I'm saying is I'm tired of the certainty. We don't know anything coming into this deal. I mean, we just don't know.
no,
We
no. Any
don't.
player could be terrible, and any player could be a future league MVP. That's the point. That we're this. It's all projections, and it's fun to talk about. But
Look at that line, man.
big dudes.
Those guys are all going to be first rounders. My suspicions they're all going to be. What did Jordan go?
Jordan went 13.
They are all going to be top 13 guys. And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think you can really say with certain. I understand why Nakobe's falling. Personally, I mean, I understand. Let's get into this now. Now, this is not me hating, okay? And as much as I like Trayvon Walker, I understand why George did not go in the first round. And my concern for George at this stage is where in the second will he go? I don't think he's going to go to the third. But how, where do you go? Because the NFL franchises are making multi-million dollar, multi-year decisions with what they do in these moments. And they know and understand everything about these players. George has been immature. George has had an ACL injury. So, whatever type of concern you have, that's exacerbated by those moments happening. Got a spider that's decided to come in here. Um,
a
I
heads up
understand.
play.
I understand why folks did not go with George in the first. In the second, that's why I said to you, I don't think he's going to be there in the first 40. I don't think he's going to get selected in the first 40 picks. Now, I don't know who's going in the next 8 picks, but soon thereafter, George Pickens is not going to be around. And you really want the most bang for your buck. If you get guys that are immature, you're going to see situations that happen like with Isaiah Wilson where he just didn't do anything, right? And that's a problem when you have someone with that sort of skill and body. So this is about George getting himself right, taking advantage of his opportunity, and taking it from there. The other thing you were pointing out correctly, this is an extremely deep wide receiver class. I think it shows that Georgia has a lot more to gain in the recruiting world with receivers as it goes. I think that's probably why you saw Brian McClendon come in. We're going to see a different type of receiver at Georgia in the coming years.
It is a deep class. I think. I don't know. I'm not certain he's going to be the next. There's one other guy I think that could go ahead of him here, and it's the North Dakota State kid. Is really
Right.
good. His name's Christian Waston or something like that. But is he going to go top 40? I mean, I'm looking at the draft order right now. I don't. I mean, one of these teams could grab him, but
Right.
it just kind of depends when when you get to the second round, that's when things just start flying all over the place with trades. So
Oh,
you can't look at this.
the amount of trades, I'm sorry, Ryan, the amount of trades we saw yesterday were insane. I
There
mean,
were a
I
lot of
loved
well,
it. It
the
was
top
like we are
10
watching
was the yeah.
it was like we were watching the NBA draft. I mean, it was just like the, conditionals and all this stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Those
Let's
were
get the
some bad trades too, man. When they were throwing them up on the screen, I was like, you gave. I think the Detroit trading back up to 12, they robbed Minnesota for that value at 12.
Well, I'll say this. God bless Jordan Davis. He's going to a situation, um, in Eagle with the Eagles is a pretty solid franchise. They got to fix that quarterback situation. They have some real weapons now. They have a junior varsity
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not hating that much. I've seen the guy play. He was scared half to death out there with Georgia. Now he played great the second time, but I shouldn't have said what I just said. Tua was scared to death. That's who was scared to death against Georgia. Good God. But Jalen is not an NFL
I don't think
starting
so.
quarterback. I mean,
I don't think
it's
so.
just like it's just insane. So these franchises make decisions that don't to me make sense. What uh what would you be driving home if you were Kirby and company about this draft to recruits, or does the message speak for itself?
I think well, it's gonna be an end all be all thing with the draft where there's gonna be a few more guys taken.
Right.
Um so I think they have an opportunity to set a record for total guys taken. I think that's on the table, right? Um it really could happen, but I mean, we're talking about just defense for this first 5 picks, and the next pick is probably going to be N'Kobe Dean.
It
So
should. Well, you would think Nakobe would go in front of George,
it's going to
right?
be N'Kobe or George. It depends on team needs. It depends on
Right.
team needs, but it's going to be N'Kobe or George next, and then that's kind of when you get the wild cards.
Jamari
Um,
or James Cook. I mean,
I
you think
think
James Cook goes
I
in the
think the
top
rest.
100? I do.
Yeah, I think the rest of them start trickling off in round 3, though. I think you got George and N'Kobe in round 2, and then round 3, I think you're gonna see a handful of Georgia
I'll tell
Bulldogs.
you what, though, man. I don't know when you want to grab James Cook, but it's just so much to like there. He can do a lot of
It's a
damage.
big weapon. It's a big
Big
weapon.
weapon. Maybe the Falcons
He's
will
one of
add
those.
him because they don't know how
I
to
wouldn't hate
draft.
that.
So, huh?
They no, dude. I wouldn't hate that as a Falcons fan. I wouldn't hate that.
But don't you at some stage need to build? I mean, when you look at what Georgia did this year, and you look at, I mean, I think Georgia and Clemson had a lot in common of the most recent national championships, and then the Alabama 17 team. They built their team with big guys, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. That's going to continue with Georgia. Booger McFarland talking about last night. We're going to see Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter in the first round next year. I will say personally, I'm not certain that I believe that Nolan will be a first round guy. But
It's
damn, I
go
mean,
time, Nolan. It's go
yeah,
time.
but and comma, I mean, if what the development is at Georgia for Devontae and Jordan and Quay Walker is any indication, we should pencil him in as a first round guy.
Well,
And
there could be a
they're
couple
just
other
getting it
guys.
they're just getting it
There could
done.
be Keely Ringo is going to be eligible.
Keely Ringo.
And
Now
if he takes that next step, he will become a first rounder. But he hasn't taken that step yet.
I do not think Zion Logue will leave after next year, but he's a guy
No,
to
but
watch.
before look at before this year.
No, I
Were
know.
Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker first rounders at all in your eyes?
Quay Walker not even close, and I would have had a hard time believing Devontae would have been that
So
way.
we could see a guy like Robert Beal or someone have an
Oh
awesome
yeah.
year, and I think that's very possible. There
Well,
should be
but
a
dude,
couple of guys in the first round next year too.
now Robert Beal does not have the body that Jermaine Johnson does, right? I mean, he doesn't have that
No,
long,
he is an
lean,
impressive
the
frame.
bend, the whole deal. But Robert Beal's production is pretty significant. But again, we're talking about the NFL here. They are about their prototypicals. They want what they want with hand size. Did you see where Kenny Pickett's got like a
Yeah,
kung fu grip?
he's
Yeah,
got the
now
small hands, and There was a video of there were some teams concerned about that. There was a video of I think it was Panthers scouts at his pro day. They literally were like grabbing his hands, looking at his hands. They're like, "Yeah, that'll be okay."
But
But it's
the
little stuff like that, man. It
I
matters.
remember the first time I really watched an NFL situation like this, and it was when David Pollock was a first round guy. And the offensive line coach or the defensive line coach, whoever was, I think it was the defensive line coach for the Bengals, who I think wound up taking him, was like getting real physical with David before they even started the drills, and like was shaking his hand like real hard, and like was kind of grabbing him and patting him and moving him and all this stuff. I was like, this is really odd, but he was, for lack of a better term, feeling him up to see what do we really got here. And of course, David had, and this is what happens, man. Just because you go first round doesn't mean there's a guarantee that you will be great or have a long career. David with the neck injury, and really, really, David Pollock was born to be on television. To be honest with you, forget the football. That just led to the TV. Look at you, Roy. You're rolling your eyes, man. You're worse than my daughter, which is really saying something.
At what? At what?
At rolling your eyes. Um,
I was trying to make it more obvious because it's a video call.
I I think if you're Kirby and them, the national championship sell is one thing, right? Make
Right.
sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. The link is down below. Running out of books. I'm really running out of books. I'm not like it. I'm not. That's not. I'm not joking. And it's hard to. This is their moment. Now, my question, of course, sort of a Wall Street question is, well, what are you doing to capitalize on this, right? What are they doing to nail down what they need to do moving forward? That's the question.
I would assume Kirby was texting guys all night.
Yeah.
Like, you see that? Did you see how Trayvon Walker just went first overall?
I just
I
don't
mean,
see how you can
he's got to
text
text.
that much, after a
I
while. I
think he's
mean,
a huge texter, man. I think he's a huge texter. We always see him on his phone,
but
looking at
why
his
does it?
phone.
He does. I know. What does he have, like a super battery on his? What is going on with that? Is that what
I-
you need, the super battery for when you're out at Silver or Sandbar or wherever?
a super battery?
Yeah, when
No,
Falcon Ryan.
you gotta charge the phone before you go.
Oh,
You gotta
like you
that's
don't
a
do for
that's a
games.
there's a lot
Like
of
you
dumb
don't.
people out there that don't do those things, like charge their phone before they go out.
So
So
Falcon Ryan always has his phone fully
Falcons
charged.
Ryan's phone is charged a lot of the time, most of the time.
What is it right now? 40?
100, 100.
Lie.
You want?
Lie.
Hey,
Wow, look at you.
yeah, yeah.
And no any inappropriate windows that popped up either. We're really.
No, I got just do not disturb on. I'm ready to rock, man. I'm prepared
Awesome.
for this. Hey, listen, let me go on a little Falcons rant.
Oh, here we go. All right. Yeah,
That was a reach, man.
here we go. Let
You,
me give you the whole screen.
yeah,
Let me
I
give you
want,
go.
yeah.
Go, go, go. I need it.
Kyle Hamilton was on the board. Jameson Williams was on the board. Garrett Wilson was on the board. You could have traded back for Jermaine Johnson, and you go and get a slow receiver that's
Uh-oh.
supposed to be the next Mike Evans. That's 2 inches smaller than Mike Evans. He can't get separation, and man, I don't know. I felt the same way when they drafted AJ Terrell 2 years ago, and Terrell has turned out to be one of the best corners in the league, but there were so many better directions you could go at 8, and you went with Drake London. I mean, all the whole like preceding months before the draft, when I would look at a mock draft and see Drake London there at 8, I would, ugh. and then and then we actually did it. It was a boring pick, man. It
We're
was.
going. We're,
It's
we're
not
so
gonna fix anything.
the
It's not gonna
Falcons
fix
are
anything.
the Falcons are a we now. I got it. Well, you are Falcon Ryan, right?
In this video on Falcon Ryan, maybe in a future video as well.
God, I would divorce the Falcons if I were you. But
It's
yeah.
tough, man. It's there's an attachment. There's a childhood attachment there, and what am I supposed to just jump ship? Who do I pick at that point? I
No,
don't
no,
know.
you just watch the games.
And I still do watch the games. Listen, I still do watch all the games and enjoy just watching the NFL, but it's hard to turn the TV on at 1 o'clock on a Sunday sometimes.
We gotta work. We gotta work on this with you, man. You have a problem. and
I hope.
your problem, consider this your intervention. You have a
Okay.
problem, and your problem is your faith in the Falcons. Please stop.
No,
No,
it's
stop it.
low, man. It's
Stop it, man. I mean, like, I shouldn't do this, but
oh, okay. He's
it's
writing
just
something down.
it's gotten to the point where when things bother you and trigger you,
All right, I'm leaving the call. I'm hitting the end button. Is that gonna mess this
see,
recording up?
see. Thanks for
I'm
watching.
actually gonna hit end.
We'll see you on the website.